right? So
all about
sellers' money, because that's the whole point is
Right. Yep.
is keeping an investment secure. A large part of that is understanding the money and treating it right.
Absolutely.
Right? And that goes for everyone. That goes for the buyers, the sellers, but more specifically, and I mean really more importantly, the agents.
Yeah.
Right? The loan officers. You know, if the banks are putting out crappy mortgage programs, something's going to go wrong. If the agents are just, oh, don't worry about it, just give them all the concessions, then prices, you know what I mean? There's a lot of responsibility in this job.
You know, one of the most important things that I have found as running a team is that I teach the newer agents, and when I'm teaching classes, you absolutely have got to be able to do a very thorough, very accurate net sheet.
Yes.
So that the sellers know exactly what their net proceeds are going to be.
That's right.
A lot of sellers don't realize that the transfer tax, it's about approximately $8.60 for every $1,000. That's a combination of county, state, but it's a total of 8.6. And I try to explain it. It's similar to our sales tax in Michigan. If you buy a candy bar at the store at 6%. So that sales tax is the government always gets their money, right?
Do.
They always
really
get their
do.
money. It's $8.60 per thousand, and it's almost, in our area anyways, in Michigan here, it's almost always a seller's closing cost. And the only time that it's not is with new construction.
Right.
But, I always tell the agents, remember who we're representing, and everything in real estate is negotiable.
It is.
Everything in real estate is negotiable.
It truly is.
And there's a lot of great builders out there, and we've worked with so many of them. Wonderful Clearview Homes, Julie Lombardo. I've got my favorites at all of the big ones. You know, they'll work with us, and I'll tell them, look, our clients are selling this house and paying this 8.6 per thousand. Can you talk to the builder and see if we can get that waived? And so many times they're willing to do that with us because we give them a lot of business. They respect our team, and they don't want the clients to have to pay that twice. So there's little nuances that you learn over the years. Weren't we going to talk about some of the craziest things that ever happened in real estate?
We are, and unfortunately, I was totally listening to you, and I'm sorry. This probably looks really bad right now, but it's live, and this is our second show.
We're live.
So making no excuses. There's a lot going on here. I mean, this is a full-blown broadcast studio. So I was trying to make sure that it is streaming. You guys are seeing it, so that's great. So now I can get back to paying attention. But we are going to talk about a lot of great stuff today. We've got, I think you lined up a couple of mistakes that agents make when dealing with sellers' money, right?
Yep,
and then you've
absolutely.
got a few things like those time bomb landmines that buyers don't know about when it comes to money in a real estate transaction.
Yep.
And so that's what we're going to dive into. And actually, the pre-show is over, so we should probably
thank you so much for tuning into our pre-show.
All right, so here's the show.
Here's the show. My name is Taleya.
And I'm Carl.
And we are here to help you buy and sell with confidence
without getting lost in the process.
And this is
Smart Real Estate Live. All right. We made it.
Yay. Our pre-show actually was live the whole time.
It was.
We're getting better. Welcome to our show. My name is Taleya.
And I'm Carl Eschenburg.
And it is a pleasure to have you tuning in. Today we're talking all about your money.
Yes.
We are talking about mistakes that sellers make, things that they hadn't maybe taken into account when they're determining what their net proceeds are going to be. And also talking about the closing costs that maybe the buyers hadn't configured that they're going to have to come up with.
It still amazes me, and that's one of the reasons why we did this, right?
Right.
Is because there's so many moving pieces in real estate, and there's so much bad information out there.
Oh my gosh,
So
yeah,
when you're purchasing or you're selling, for most people is the biggest investment they'll ever make.
Absolutely.
It's an extremely stressful situation.
Very
and
stressful.
the numbers, I mean, you put all your money into it. You know, I mean, the stories we could tell, and I'm sure you've got a million of them too, about what people have done to make the dream of homeownership.
You know, I'm a storyteller.
Well, I am too, right?
He'll reel me in because I want to tell
Promise.
stories.
no, her stories are great, but the stuff that people put into making that purchase happen.
Right.
Like, I mean, the story, getting gifts and spending it's amazing. And so that deserves to be treated with a tremendous amount of respect.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of confusion out there about the numbers, and maybe you've done this 4, 5, 6 times and you know all the numbers. We'd love to hear your comments as we go through everything.
Absolutely.
But maybe you're just doing it for the first time or the second time, or maybe, God forbid, you had a terrible experience with an agent that, you know what I mean?
We hear that sometimes, and big surprises coming up at, closing or right beforehand.
Yep.
But can I just say something, interject
Absolutely,
really quick?
yeah.
He mentioned the word gift. A lot of people don't realize that for first-time home buyers that are going FHA, and actually I don't even know that they have to be first-time home buyers. If you're going to be getting married this spring or this summer, guess what? You can actually register for your wedding to get money towards your closing costs.
Crazy.
How awesome is that?
Now that I think is a brilliant change.
That's a great idea.
In the finance in the pre-show we were talking about back in the days right before the market tanked, and they were making changes like, oh, let's just throw this mortgage at it. If you can breathe, you get a mortgage.
Right.
And if you can walk, you get a mortgage. It was nuts, right? And that's what caused it. Now that is a brilliant financial piece.
And here's the thing: there's so many, I think, parents that say, okay, you know what? It's a family tradition. We're going to throw this $30,000 wedding. And I always think, wouldn't that money be better, spend as a down payment on a house? But now they can still have their dream wedding, and then they can register for money for their wedding.
So they get the best of both worlds.
Yes.
Because really that's where they're starting. I mean, most people, when they get married, they buy a house. It's one of the big triggers, right?
I love it.
I love that. I can't wait to hear more about that.
All right, reel me in.
No, you're good. You're good. You're awesome. The cool thing about you, and here's one of the things, like a lot of people were saying, they gave us a lot of feedback last week we were talking about. And one of the things that I loved is a couple people were like, you know what, that's her personality, and that's what makes her her, right? Don't change your personality. Maybe we can finesse this and finesse that, but you and I are both really passionate.
We are.
We both talk fast. We both get really excited. So just keep being who you are, because you're pretty awesome.
So are you.
Right,
Some people
thanks.
had mentioned I cut Carl off, so I'm going to work on that because I care about him, and he is brilliant and has a lot of important things to say. So
well, thank you.
I will try. He's going to reel me in.
We're going to reel each other in, because we can both go.
Dude,
so
we're reeling each other
reeling it in. Okay. So if you're new, if this is the first time that you've joined us, normally we would do this in the pre-show, but we were kind of getting some technical stuff, dialed in. Type new in the comments. Just let us know that you're here. We'd love to give you a personal welcome. If you've been here before, thank you for coming back. But if you type show in the comments, you'll be automatically subscribed to a notification list.
Absolutely.
And then each week when we go live, you'll get a notification about 10 minutes before the show. It'll let you know that the pre-show's starting, and that gives you an opportunity to kind of get comfortable, maybe get a cup of coffee.
Maybe
whatever.
you're on your lunch break and you're just sitting there bored and you want to tune into our show.
Right.
We would be so humbled and honored. That would be
absolutely, because we want to help as many people as we can. So if that's a good point. If you or anyone you know has real estate questions about anything, not just today's topics, which are money, send us a text message or send us a message right below on Facebook, and this is live, so we're going to get those messages, and we will actually answer those questions right here and now.
And you know what?
Uncensored.
Uncensored and with complete being candid with you. If I've been in real estate full time since 2006. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to just tell you. That is a great question.
Yep.
We're always constantly learning new things. Rules are changing. It's an ongoing learning process. Our team is huge with education.
Absolutely.
And if I don't know an answer, I'm going to just be honest and tell you I don't know it. However, I think it might be fun to try and stump me because I'm so passionate about real estate. So.
Careful what you ask for.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that is one of the amazing things about her. And I've always been the same way. And anyone that knows me knows that if you ask a question, if I don't know the answer, exactly what she said. I'll be like, you know what? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to find out because I love learning too. And so, it doesn't do anybody any good to act like a know-it-all and tell everybody you know everything.
Absolutely.
And give false information.
No, I don't know everything.
That's the opposite of what the show's about, right? The show's about giving accurate information.
Absolutely.
So we're
and building relationships. There have been so many times that over the years, I truly, truly had my client's best interest at heart and maybe learned the hard way. One example, I remember, it was a while ago, maybe 2007 or 8. My clients were torn between two homes and they were going FHA. And I really thought that this other house was the best option for them. It was less per square foot, more square footage. And I didn't realize that because there was a gas station on the corner and it was backed up to it, that the FHA mortgage wouldn't go through. So it was such a hard lesson to learn.
You were pretty new back then.
I was pretty new, but I was so upset. I was devastated.
I can't even imagine. I'm glad I missed that rodeo.
I'm glad you didn't have to experience
well,
that.
Just because you really care. I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like, you care so much about what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a better deal, more square footage. Everything about it was more perfect, but then their mortgage couldn't go through. It was like,
It makes it tough.
But we learn from our mistakes. We're all human beings. And but please, if you have any questions, if you're curious what your house is worth, what the market's going, what's the average price per square foot in your neighborhood, type us a comment.
Absolutely.
Type us a question.
Actually, I'm gonna take some comments right now.
We have comments.
We do. Carl's watching. Danielle's watching. Hey, Danielle. What's up?
Danielle.
Amy Bowser Rollins is watching.
Hi,
Amy, thank you again so much for all of your amazing feedback. She's got a great show.
Amy has a great show on litigation.
Litigation support, right?
Yep.
And so she's taken a topic which is full of information and data and really detailed stuff.
Lots of numbers.
Yep, and she's put together a live show that goes over
amazing.
Support. It's a litigation support guru, and she's amazing.
She makes it very interesting and compelling.
She does.
So shout out to Amy.
And she gave us a lot of great feedback last week. So, she said you two look beautiful today. Thanks, Amy.
You're beautiful too. I don't think it was Amy, but somebody told me that me drinking from my water bottle last week was distracting. So now I have my water in a little cup here.
Right. So let us know what you think about that. We were thinking about getting mugs. Rev had a great idea. Get mugs and put the logo on it.
I think we should get Carl a mug that says trophy host.
Oh, jeez. I'm game, man. I'm game for whatever. And then Amy, thanks. We're glad you love the high five. We do love to have fun.
Oh, you remember our high five last week? We missed.
Yeah, we've been practicing that. That's one of the things we want. It's all about improvement, right? Right. So Nicole's watching.
Practice makes progress.
Oh, Amy McGregor says hi.
Nicole. Hi, Amy McGregor.
Debbie's watching.
Amy McGregor has been an amazing, amazing client. She went through some things in her life that I was happy to be a part of, and got her a great deal on her house. I was there the other day, and she just redid her floors. It looks gorgeous.
Awesome.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for tuning in.
And we'll take a couple more real quick. Kathy actually had a great comment. She said that she had a similar FHA situation to what you were just describing last year.
Okay, yeah.
And that can be very painful. Hopefully, and let us know.
It was
hopefully that it all worked
nightmare.
out. And
I ended up, because they went with me, to buy another home, and I just ended up paying for their next home inspection, and I would have paid for the appraisal, but they're so strict with the underwriting guidelines. They have to make sure that money comes directly from the credit card of the purchaser. So.
They do, yeah. And then this is kind of cool. The WCR Christmas party is watching us.
They are?
Just got greetings. It says greetings from the WCR. So tell them what the WCR is.
It is the Women's Council of Realtors, and so many amazing women in this industry that have supported me, that have mentored me. Lori Jaglois, Robin Barnes, Jeannie Petroso, Margie Ferris, Stacy Pearden. All of these women are amazing realtors that have been in the business longer than me, and in our business, they're not catty maybe like in some other industries. We have a very supportive industry, and I am so grateful for all of the help from these women. And there's a lot of guys there too that are tuning in, and it's a great party that normally I go to every year. However, we have our show, so anybody that's there and tuning in, we appreciate your support. Hi.
What's up, WCR?
What's up?
All right, so why don't we jump into it?
Okay, let's jump in.
At the end of the day, it's all about giving great information. So excuse that it just popped up, said sell. Don't type sell in the comments. We'll get that in a minute. But today we're going to jump into our weekly market snapshot. So every week we're going to do some market statistics and just kind of not like crazy boring, like oh my god, but like high level. Like let's take a look.
General overview. Yeah, let's take a look.
Take a look at what's going on. So just go ahead and go to the iPad, and you are good to go.
Is it full screen?
It is full screen on here. So we just go play. There we go. So, if we take a look at these numbers, where we have them highlighted in green, I love the fact that you did that because that really hones in on the areas that we work, right? But when I was looking at this, I really got some interesting information out of it. One thing that I thought was interesting is that, like, if you look down at Macomb County, right? So this is the year-to-date 2017 sales statistics, right? Up until the end of October, actually. So we're still compiling numbers. So, the year-to-date number of sales is actually down.
Absolutely.
But look at the prices.
So whenever it's just like if you tuned in last week, we're always talking about the law of supply and demand, and the fact that there are less homes on the market means that the prices are going up, and it's very, very clear here. All of these stats are directly from our multiple listing service, and one of the nice things, Metro Detroit is a top 10 market, and because of the fact that the board of realtors and the brokers owners in one county and the board in the other, it's created when computers became popular, their own MLS.
Right.
We literally were the only top 10 market that had 2 multiple listing services. And for years, we never thought they'd merge. And finally, they did merge last year.
Yep.
So these stats are actually a combination of all of the MLSs that are part of our, we call it the Great Lakes Repository. So it's all of the information. It's not limited to just one multiple listing service.
It's not. And I'll tell you what, I do not miss the days of 2 MLSs.
I don't either.
I am not going to lie. It was a nightmare for us.
It wasn't just twice the money. The pictures had to be edited differently.
Yeah.
And
it was
now,
literally, we had 2, we won't bore you with all these details, but we had 2 physically different MLS systems. So
completely different, yeah.
And really, the truth is, if you were an agent and you weren't on both, you really weren't in the game.
Out. Yeah.
Because our market's a lot different than other markets throughout the country. Detroit is, you got Detroit proper, but the majority of the activity right now is in the suburbs.
Right. Well, except for what's happening right downtown.
Which is totally new.
Right. Yeah,
right?
totally new.
But back in the day.
But overall, in general.
So most municipalities, like if you go to like big cities like Los Angeles, I mean, they have a huge suburb population, but the active market in LA proper is really, it's like the bullseye of the market and it all spreads out. We're kind of the opposite. It's like an inverted target.
Yep.
So if you were on the west side of the suburbs, most of them were using Realcom.
Absolutely.
If you were on the east side of the suburbs,
they were using
which is now Paragon.
Right.
So if you listed your house with a west side agent, everybody on the east side that wanted to move west didn't even see your list. It was crazy.
Right. Well, and one thing for those of you that are tuning in from out of state, one of the things that I absolutely love about Michigan, and my brother, he's a huge fisherman. Yeah, you are never. It's never more than 5 minutes to get to a lake.
Yeah,
there's lakes. We have the Great Lakes, but the whole state is filled with lakes.
And we have the heart. We have the heart of the Great Lake.
We
Lake
do.
St. Clair.
Yep, absolutely.
You ever look at it on a map?
Yeah.
It actually looks like a little
I went boating. I inherited our family boat this summer, but I won't get into that story. But one of the things that was so important about being in boats is sometimes we'd have people there's a lot of boaters in Michigan. They'd want to move from the big, Lake St. Clair to one of the inland, one of the inland Oakland County lakes,
which are beautiful,
and they're gorgeous. And those are the better lakes for doing things like wakeboarding and things like that. And guess what? If you walked into your local office to sell in Macomb County on the lake, you would not have access to all those lakefront properties if that agent on the west side was not a member of my real source. So now it's all combined, and these stats are completely
thank you. And I'm a numbers guy. I didn't used to be. Remember? I didn't used to be, but I had to force myself to get in that
numbers
mode.
Don't lie. They don't lie.
They don't. So when I was looking at this, at this report that you prepared,
can we throw up full screen for
absolutely,
them? Okay,
absolutely. It was actually really interesting to me to see, like I said, the fact that if you look down the column for every single board in Michigan, the actual year-to-date volume is down.
Yeah.
Right. But then if you look again, year-to-date price change, it's up across the board.
Right.
Which goes back to what you're talking about for supply and demand. And then when I was looking at like Macomb and Grosse Pointe, the numbers, and then the increase. Grosse Pointe on a whole, all 5 communities, they're up 11.38% for the year. I was blown away by that. Now, Grosse Pointe always holds their value, right? It's typically a really strong market.
At the end of the day, there is only so much property near water. And it's such a beautiful part of Lake St. Clair. I love it.
Yeah, I do too.
I love that part
too.
of the lake.
I was very fortunate to grow up there, but the community, there's 5 points, right?
Yep.
And all 5 of those communities, they're very well known throughout the country, and they tend to hold their value really well. But for a lot of reasons, they got great public services.
They have a separate park for each of the Grosse Pointes.
It's amazing. They have private parks with pools. I mean, one of the public services, and I gotta double check, but I think the farm still does this. But in the Grosse Pointe farms, you don't even take your garbage to the curb.
And they would shovel the sidewalk there too.
Well, they do it in all the points.
Yeah.
But in Grosse Pointe farms, they have these little Trollmans, and they like these little mini dump trucks, and they look like go-kart dump trucks, and they just shoot up your driveway, grab the garbage, and then they draw it down.
It really is.
So
amazing.
So that area tends to hold its value really well, and it also tends to appreciate faster than the other areas.
And I'm so excited though, super quick, because I I don't want to interrupt Carl because I know
right.
you're in the thought, but before I forget, our fearless leader that purchased the market center that I work at, I have my own team in S-Corp, Taleya Kelly and Associates, but I'm under the Keller Williams umbrella.
Right.
Our fearless, I always call him our fearless leader.
Are you telling him the secret?
Well, you know what? We announced it last night.
Did you really?
Yes. So Jeff Glover, who is a friend, a mentor to me, he actually, we are opening up a Grosse Pointe office. And I'm super excited about it because I went to Bishop Gallagher High School, and I know the area, and I cannot wait.
I'm excited too, and it's a really big deal, and we won't get into all the details of why it's a big deal, but
that'll be another show.
Jeff, congratulations, man! I think that's fantastic. I'm an as-is guy. I can't even tell you, and I know you know this, how many people have tried to open an office for Keller Williams in Grosse Pointe.
He's getting it done,
and no one has been able to pull it together.
Going to be a part of it, and I support him 100%. I'm super excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that is exciting.
I can't wait.
So anyways, did you have anything else that you wanted to kind of touch base on the stats?
Yeah, can we just real quick full screen one more time, and then we'll move on?
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out that in Macomb County, so far this year, 9,677 sales, and that is amongst all of the boards. That's all of the repository everywhere, compared to last year. 10,206. So even though the market's like a pendulum swinging, we're still the market is still a seller's market.
It is, and that's reflected if you look at the price, right?
Yeah.
So with that number of sales, even though that's down transactional volume 5.1%, prices are up 7.38%.
Yeah.
So again, it goes back. There's no crystal ball. There's no super secret formula. There's just the numbers and a normal market, and those numbers are going up, and they should be because it's supply and demand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Before we move on, one last thing I just want to point out: in Macomb County, average sales price went from 174 to 187.
Right.
Average sales price in Oakland County from last year to this year was 273 to 292, and then Grosse Pointe. 307 to 349,
which is huge.
Huge.
And now that's not a representative swing for most markets, but like we were talking about, Grosse Pointe tends to be a little special that way, and that's a great thing. Yeah. I mean, it's an aspiration place. You don't just. I mean, there's how many NFL team owners live there? I think 3.
Yeah.
You know, it's an amazing place. So I'm glad to see those values where they are because I grew up there. It's very near and dear to my heart. I was very fortunate to grow up there. And when the market was crashing, to see what was happening in property values, it was hard.
That was the hardest part of our jobs is telling sellers.
Well, my mom was one of them.
Right. So, oh my God, Mom, don't kill me.
Yeah. It was
I had to tell my parents, and that's why they sat in their house. And one thing, just really quick, that I want to mention though, we don't have the Detroit stats in here. The Detroit stats are just absolutely crazy. I'd like to do a full show on that because of what's happening in the downtown area. For the most part, our team has worked in the counties surrounding Metro Detroit. There is one stat on there.
Detroit Board of Realtors.
Detroit Board of Realtors.
Look at that price increase. 22%.
Yes.
Price up 22% on average.
And that's just from the Detroit board. I think if we were to pull up the MLS stats for Detroit, I think let's do that for next week so that we can let everybody know.
So I'm gonna continue to work on this and we'll tweak it, and then the stats will get better and better and better. Anybody that remembers back in the radio show days, whether it was the 97 one, the ticket show, or whether it was the Monopoly Report show.
Dude, you did so good with the Monopoly.
It was fun. It was fun. It was
that was the one I was on. I loved it.
But it was this. We just didn't have the camera.
Right.
But it was the exact same thing. So it was me and Rev and Deb, and we'd have guests, and it was awesome. So I'm really looking forward to doing the same thing here.
Yep. So we're gonna get you better stats every week, and let's move on.
All right, fantastic.
Okay.
All right, so you lined up an interesting concept, right? Oh, look, the highlighter came up. So 3 mistakes that agents make with sellers' money.
Right.
And this is, I'm going to cue this up for you because I think this is really a critical thing.
I think so too.
Everybody knows a real estate agent. Everybody's got a friend. I mean, I think there's like...
Everybody knows a realtor.
There's like 6,000... This isn't the exact number, so don't blow up my email or comment, oh, that's wrong.
You're wrong.
It's like 6,000, 7,000 agents in Southeast Michigan.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you can't really swing a dead cat by the tail without hitting a real estate agent, right? But the point is that even if it's your cousin, your brother, I mean, they could be the greatest person in the world.
You know Liz is going to comment about the cat.
Liz, I'm sorry. I didn't scratch that. It's live. I can't. Anyways, the quality of your agent makes a big difference, and a lot of people, they just think that, we just throw a sign in the ground and we walk away, and then we get this.
It's always tough.
It doesn't happen that way. Real agent, right? And if they've never experienced working with a high-end professional like yourself, like everyone on your team, they might not understand the difference until they don't know what they don't know, right?
They don't know.
So one of the things that I love about what you do, and it's the same thing that I always believed in this, is it not only you educate your clients from beginning to end, and I love you do
advocate,
and you advocate for them and educate for them, and I don't care whether they're buying and selling a $750,000 house, or whether they're buying and selling a $100,000 house. I've literally seen you go through the exact same process.
Absolutely.
And make sure that, because everyone's got different questions. Some of them are the same, but everyone's got different. And this is one of the parts where I think a lot of agents fall down. They don't know the numbers. They don't understand the finances as well as you do. And then their clients could suffer for that in big ways if something comes up, right?
Well, and they don't know the importance of professional photography either. A couple of the new listings that we have coming up, we've got a really cool house. It's a beautiful bungalow in Eastpointe. So it's going to be priced probably $69,900, and I'm not supposed to talk about prices. Anyway, it'll be priced right, and whether it's like he said, a $70,000 house, or one that we have coming up in Shelby, in the high to 300 range. I won't say prices. We have professional photography. The photos are so important as well as the remarks.
It's your first showing now, right?
Yeah.
But and then we can do a whole other show on the marketing piece.
Right.
And
absolutely. I think we should.
I think we should
will.
too.
Okay.
So 3 mistakes that agents make with sellers' money.
Yeah.
And go.
Not doing the math. Oh my gosh. Can I just say hashtag OMG? Like I will literally, I cannot believe there have been numerous times that sellers wanting to do their due diligence will interview a couple different agents. So-and-so from work said this guy's great. So-and-so from work said this girl's great. And when I meet with them, I'll find out, what's approximately what you owe, this and that, add a little bit to the principal balance, and literally go through the net sheet and say, okay, here's exactly how much the commission's going to be. Here's that $8.60 per thousand for the sales tax that's going to be a seller's charge for you. Here is exactly how much you are going to have to pay for occupancy, because if you need to live in the home 30 days after closing, the buyer's approximate principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment is going to be this, and they're going to charge you approximately 1/30th per day, unless we get multiple offers and negotiate out of that, which sometimes we do. I like to give the sellers the worst case scenario. If you end up having to provide a home warranty, if maybe the furnace is old, that's in there. All of the closing costs, literally, we go through them one by one and make sure that the sellers know with 100% certainty exactly what each single closing cost is, why they're paying it, and any questions that they have, we answer them, because I don't want any surprises. I found that when you set expectations, you don't have problems afterwards.
But
that's so important.
It's professional, right? I mean,
it's their money. It's your money.
And that's why you're doing it. You're not selling the house because you just have nothing better to do. You're selling the house because you need to move, and in order to make that move happen, for whatever the reason is, you need the money that your hard-earned money that you've put in the house, and your numbers should be right. So I've seen agents that they ask, oh, what do you owe on the house? Oh, you owe 180. Oh, yeah, we could probably get I don't know, 250, because those agents most of the time they'll overestimate the value of the home.
Yeah, they will.
So they'll be like, oh, I mean, I've literally seen this. I know you have too. Hey, you owe 180. We could sell it for 250. You'll be fine. And that's their consult on the numbers.
Right.
You sit down and you go through it. She goes through it step by step, like she said, with a net sheet. And we're actually going to do a show where she's going to do her net sheet magic, which I love watching.
I ordered the new iPad pencil, and I'm learning how to use it. So
it's going to be awesome.
Once I know how, I will literally go through a net sheet with you guys.
Because it's important, and so it's not like a super secret thing. It's not like this.
But we can't zoom the camera in right now on the dots. So.
But no, we want to share it with you, but we want to make sure that we do it. We want to make sure we do it in a way that is
professional, properly.
And then we'll also have a copy of that net sheet ready for anyone. So if you're a seller and you want a copy of the worksheet so that you can actually have something, I mean, could you imagine walking into a listing presentation and they've already got a professional net sheet dialed out? I mean, that would be, I want to be a fly on the wall for that, right? When you're a seller and you've got our net sheet and you've already done all your calculations, and then you meet with an agent to talk about listing.
Wait, what? Yeah. I have to pay this?
And we'll do the same thing with buyer net sheets. So we'll go through the buyer costs, because buyer costs are actually a little bit more fluid.
Well, and a lot of the buyers, they don't realize that there's title insurance on both sides. the seller has to provide the owner's policy, which is guaranteeing that that buyer is going to have a free and clear title. However, the buyer also has to provide a title insurance policy to the mortgage company if they're not paying, if they're paying cash. Yeah. It doesn't come into play, but usually it's a mortgage because that mortgage company is the first lien position on the property. Mm-hmm. So in every transaction, there's a lot. Buyers have taxes, whether it's that 8.6 per thousand. Mm-hmm. The sellers have that 8.6. The buyers have tax prorations because we pay our taxes in advance. Both sides have title insurance. So.
It's crazy. And we're going to talk about a lot. I think I saw a lot in there about tax prorations. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to point out a couple of things real quick. Like you said, not doing the math. So obviously not accurately figuring out, the cost of your home can be very costly. But then again, if your closing costs aren't really accurately estimated, there's no way that anyone can provide you with a dead-on number before you sell your home because we don't know what you're going to sell for. We don't know what the concessions and the negotiations, but we can get really, really close.
Right.
And if you have that, then you can avoid things like needlessly lost equity, which is a horrible thing. You're just literally just giving away money, and sometimes it can be thousands of dollars. And then surprises at closing, those are the worst. The worst thing in the world is to get to a closing or have a seller come to a closing. It would never happen with you. You're representing the buyer, say, and then the seller comes to the table and there's a number that they didn't know. And even with the closing disclosures and all that stuff now, it still happens. Like this is years ago. This was before the CD. I had a client that showed up to the closing. I did not connect her with my loan officer, which is something that I started doing.
Right.
Like it was really part of our system, and this is one of the reasons why. She showed up to closing, and her loan officer at the bank at the closing said, it doesn't look like your homeowner insurance declaration page came in. I got to check on that. He checks on it. It was never paid for.
Now, you owe me $2,000.
Right. Yeah. So this
come up with an extra couple grand.
So this client had actually put all of her resources into all of the closing costs that he had already estimated her, and now it was right around $1,000. She was crying. It was horrible, and that's the kind of stuff. Believe it or not, it happens all the time if you're not working with a quality professional. So you can avoid all of those mistakes, and we're going to go through that net sheet, and I can't wait to watch you do that because it's fun. I love doing that stuff.
I love that too.
All right, cool. All right, what's next?
Incorrect tax prorations. Oh my gosh. Okay. I could go on and on about this. We have in Michigan, this is, going to be helpful for maybe a seller that hasn't sold in a long time, as well as buyers. We have 2 times the taxes come out. They come out on July 1st and they come out on December 1st. The majority of the time in our area, the summer tax bill that comes out in July is the higher one. Yeah. Sometimes it's reversed for different reasons, if they're rebuilding the school or whatever the case may be. However, usually that July 1st tax bill is the big one. Yeah. And what's going to happen is if you currently are selling your home and you have a mortgage and your taxes are escrowed, that money, they're using it and it's being invested. It doesn't actually have to be paid until September. So they'll be thinking, okay, well, I paid these taxes in advance and the buyers are going to be reimbursing me for the whole year. And they don't realize that if we close the house in December or January, they're actually only getting reimbursed for the taxes from the day of closing through June 30th of the following year.
Which can be a huge difference.
Right.
So in any municipality, taxes tend to be, they fluctuate greatly depending on public services. But back to what we were talking about earlier with Grosse Pointe taxes are high because of the public services.
Right.
If somebody makes a mistake on your net sheet estimates for either your prorations that you're, whatever you're getting back as a rebate, or on your purchase,
they're going to be,
which we're going to talk about in a few minutes, man, that can be a devastating error.
Yeah,
devastating.
Absolutely.
And so estimating through a conversation where it's like, oh yeah, you owe this, we can sell for this, you're good, you got the money, just don't do it. Just don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, we had a seller recently. She's an amazing client of ours, and her house burnt down. The insurance rebuilt the whole house, and she was so excited. I got a brand new house. This is great. Well, what happened was the taxes went to non-homestead because it wasn't living in it. So they doubled, and then
that's right. I didn't even think about homestead. That's that's a great point.
Yeah, they doubled, and then her payment went up because her escrow had to go up, and all of these things are things that people just don't take into account. The taxes really make such a huge difference.
They really do.
And it's really important to have an agent that understands the taxes. We'll figure out, okay, if we're closing in September, you're getting reimbursed for 9 months of that big bill. If you're closing in May, you're only getting reimbursed for 1 month of that summer tax bill.
Which depending on your tax basis can be a massive shift on your closing statement. And and it can devastate. If you don't have the accurate numbers to the day, I mean, it can really, really make things challenging and stressful. And the point is, it doesn't have to be that way. You can have a quality agent work with you. We're going to try to empower you. We're going to give you the net sheet. We're going to walk through it with you, how to figure out the calculations so that you can have all that. You can do it on your own if you want, but at least we're going to demystify.
Right. Well, something that's huge, I think, for sellers is that what a lot of people don't realize, during the market crash, a new, I don't know if it's a law or a rule, whatever the case may be, they passed that you can actually, normally you're not allowed to have 2 homestead exemptions. So you get a discount on your taxes when it's your primary residence. If your house is currently up for sale and you have bought another home, because you can afford, to buy and then take your time moving, you can actually have 2 homestead exemptions if that property is for sale. And sometimes we'll find that the sellers didn't know that, their agent didn't tell them, and they removed the homestead exemption. So if we're closing in that month of June, the homestead exemption's gone. We close, after the July 1st tax bill comes out, and then all of a sudden our buyers are having to reimburse thousands of dollars more than they thought. So it's crazy. So important for the sellers to know, do not remove that homestead exemption and put it on your other one if your current house is for sale. Yep. It's huge.
It is. It's
huge.
It's a big deal. So tax relations, and again, we'll get into that. And then we're talking about, we're now talking to tax professionals. We're going to line up some really quality tax professionals to do interviews with.
I can't wait. We're going to get great people on the show with us, professionals that can tune in and that really are experts in their area. It's just like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a team to have a transaction in real estate to go smooth and have everybody be happy. And
I'm going to kind of go off on a sidebar because I was talking to somebody about that very topic the other day. So real estate is, I love one of your favorite sayings is you got to win the price war in the beauty pageant. Right?
I always do that, yes.
But if you think about that, statement, I think one of the reasons why that statement is so powerful is because it addresses the whole right brain, left brain thing.
Yes,
right?
Yes, it does.
It's not just a cute cliche. And real estate is this paradigm of right brain, left brain thinking.
Right.
Because
it really is.
So if you're a lister and if you're selling your house, you need to win the price. You need to win the price war in the beauty pageant.
Right. Yep.
But if you're a real estate agent, you need to be able to be a Da Vinci and make amazing marketing and really super creative stuff, and then you need to be able to be Einstein and go with the numbers, and then you need to be Donald Trump and be able to negotiate.
Right.
I mean, there's so many pieces, so that's one of the reasons why the team concept is so powerful and so effective, because you, and I love the way you do it, because you really follow the Keller Williams model, right?
I love Keller Williams. Shout out to my company and the models. Yeah, I try to be on model as much as possible. I'm not perfect. My coach helps me. Hi, Craig, if you're watching.
The models are amazing, but if you don't follow them, right? But one of the things you do is you actually do personality profile testing, not in a bad way. It's a test that's designed to figure out how people think and where their strengths are. Right. Yeah. So you don't want to hire somebody like me that's crazy creative to be your numbers guy. Right. Even though I am a numbers guy now, I had to learn that.
I had to learn it
but
too.
most people aren't, right?
Math is not my forte. And I've gotten good at it, though.
Right.
It was hard, though.
It is. We both have done that.
Thanks.
And you don't want to hire someone who's really caring and sensitive, like an S personality type, right? To be your negotiator.
Correct.
Because, yes, it's great that they care for people, but on the negotiation side, so you have to find all these different personality types, put them together in a team, and that's why teams are so powerful and they work so well. So anyways.
Each person on the team has what they're really good at and they're passionate about.
If it's done right.
Now,
I've seen teams, and I even made mistakes with my own.
I've made mistakes too.
But I've seen teams.
We're learning.
I've seen teams that are like, they're a hot mess in a handbag, and it's like, it's more like a circus than a team. But at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So, anyways, I digress because you made that statement. It was something I was talking to somebody about the other day. So
reeling each other in.
Reeling it in. Okay, so number 3. What's the number 3 mistake that agents make?
Giving away the farm. I think there are a lot of times, for example, that people are starting to stress out. They're thinking, oh my gosh, there's less buyers in the winter. Do we have to drop the price? Do we have to give concessions? There's two ways of looking at concessions. You can look at it from a buyer's point of view, that they're rolling their costs into the loan because they're paying a higher price and getting money back at closing. From a seller's point of view, though, you can look at it as, okay, maybe my bottom line was $200,000. But, if they need help, I'll do 205. However, the house still has to appraise for 205. Right. So really, their house is worth 205. They're really only getting 200. So there's a couple different ways to look at it, and it really takes an agent that understands concessions from both ends to be able to explain to both clients, or either to your seller or your buyer, and then the other agent, and explain why and how it's going to be a win-win. And maybe sometimes if we need concessions as a buyer, we'll give them free occupancy as a house. As a seller, if they're willing to give concessions, they want free occupancy after closing. So give and take.
So the key is that there's a lot of ways to do it.
Right.
And it's not as easy as people think, but I've seen a lot of agents, they're like, oh yeah, just give them 6%, it's fine. Let's just close this thing down. And that's the wrong attitude, because they might not even need 6%.
Well, and another thing to keep in mind too is with FHA loans, you can get up to 6% as the max. With a conventional mortgage, usually you can get up to 3% concessions. So sometimes we'll have a lender who is they're not trying to do anything wrong. They're overzealous. Ask for 6%. And if they can't use that 6%, they can't get cash back at closing. So actually, the buyer could have gotten the house for less. And not, because that money is basically being wasted.
So now everybody's losing.
Everybody's losing that.
So, and we haven't even gotten to the buyer money tricks, right? But so yeah, giving away the farm, and that can cause a couple other things. And again, I don't want to be the grim reaper of the conversation, but the problems that can cause is obviously you can give away a lot of equity. Now, when you're talking percentages of sale price, right? You're not talking a fixed cost like a home inspection or an appraisal fee, which is a few $100s. When you're talking percentages of gross return, that's thousands of dollars sometimes. So you can lose equity if you don't have someone negotiating on your behalf. And if you as a seller aren't educated on how these numbers actually work, it's not necessarily your fault, but you just might not understand that you're losing money. You're leaving money on the table that you don't need to, and then beyond that, again, needless surprises at closing, which are tragic, and we hate those, and we want to avoid this at all. And then, but you touched on it, failed property appraisals. I mean, if the property doesn't appraise, nobody, it's a game over. So
one of our value propositions of our team is we really make sure we are definitely not doing anything to violate RESPA. We don't try to persuade appraisers or anything like that. Nothing shady, okay? But what we do is we want to make sure that the house is presented in the absolute best light possible, and that the appraiser does know of every upgrade and every update. So not necessarily something that our current sellers did. If there's a house that was built and all of the windowsills in that home are pure marble, that's a expensive upgrade.
It is.
When that house was built, and the appraisers need to know about it. They might not see it because the curtains are closed.
Yep.
So if you take all of the upgrades and updates that have been done, it might be just enough to bump that appraisal up to maybe a higher C or Q quality or condition rating, which can then make sure that the house praises where it should. And we have so many sellers are very passionate about the amount of things that they've done to the home.
Well, and they do it themselves too.
Right.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, when I do a home improvement, I do it right.
Yep.
Right. And when I do it, I put a lot into it. I don't go overboard. I don't get crazy, and I'm not like trying to sell you on the fact that I use heavy duty nails on the roof, and my house is worth $10,000 more. But if you do
I have a 500 horsepower garbage disposal.
Right. Awesome. So you can dispose of car parts.
Glasses, right? Bowls that you don't feel like cleaning.
But the truth is that a lot of sellers, they take a lot of pride in their homes, and they put a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and equity into those repairs.
Right.
And if the appraiser misses something, and it's not to say the appraiser is making a mistake. It's just they might not even see it. They might not even enter their radar screen. I mean, we all make mistakes.
Well,
I make mistakes every day.
Absolutely. And we set the expectation with the sellers that you are not going to get 100% ROI, return on investment, for these things, because you've done them for the enjoyment of yourself in the home. However, we want to make sure that the appraiser knows of every upgrade, every update. And when we meet the appraisers at the homes, I always tell the appraisers, don't worry, I'm going to stay out of your hair. I'm not going to shove comparables down your throat. I let them do their thing, and then when we're leaving, I ask them if they have any questions, and I will give them, I actually don't type it, Nicole, my hero, it's my chicken scratch. They tell you, don't let Taleya write on the air with a pencil.
I don't remember.
You can't read her writing.
I don't remember the adjective that they used, but it was funny. I was like, okay, noted.
Noted. But anyways, we'll chicken scratch it all up, and then Nicole or Debbie, our listing manager, one of the two of them, does a beautiful job typing it all up, and we put each individual room what's been done, whether it's paint, blinds, carpet, marble windowsills, crown molding, and all of these things. The appraisers, a lot of times what they're doing, they are going from house to house to house one day and taking their photos, walking through, taking some notes, and then they're spending a few days doing the research. And when they've looked at 5, 6, 7 houses, they'll start to blend together. So when we make sure that they have a list from us, it's just a natural human instinct to want to remember and give value to those things.
So what you're saying is that's one of your key processes.
That's what we do.
To not giving away the farm.
Absolutely.
So you're taking care of the numbers on the front end and the back end. Oh my gosh, beginning to end. Look at that.
It's not easy. I am passionate about it, and as we grow, I'm going to have to train because I mostly work with sellers, but I meet every single appraiser at the house and
it's
give
a cool,
them
it's a cool part. It's a cool part of your service, and the fact that you can pull it off without angering the appraisers, or because
I never want to make them mad. That's the last thing you want to do.
So Amy said she'd love to know what the value of her house is worth in Mount Clemens. It's been 7 years since she bought it. So
great.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, if you want to text the address, I would love to.
Maybe not in the comments. But you don't have to put your address. But why don't we'll reach out to you? We'll reach out to you after the show. Yeah, for sure.
Send us a private message, and I will have you a market analysis within half an hour of the show.
Michelle Bain wrote in. She said, "Hi, Taleya and Carl. Taleya, we think you're awesome."
Aw, thanks, Michelle.
And she said, "We're sure you are too, Carl." So,
he is awesome.
Thank you.
I had to convince him to co-host with me because he's always been behind the camera and does such a great job with our client appreciation party and all of that. But we have such a great friendship and camaraderie. I said, please just be on the show with me. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it is fun. Well, and then like I said, when I was doing the radio show, this is what we did. And God, I mean, we did that show for years, and I was looking at the dates. It was almost 18 years to the day that I sold real estate full time.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy, and but I've been in real estate for one way or another. I've been in real estate for over 20 years now, which is kind of crazy.
It is crazy.
Really dating myself.
Well,
I started when I was 12.
10.
All right, so Kevin's watching. Kevin, thanks for tuning in. That's great to see
Kevin.
you, man.
Hi.
Dude, Bry's is epic. I wish I had pictures to show right now of that house on Bry's, Kevin. That is one of the most...
That's Chris's listing, right?
Oh, my God, dude.
Shout out to, just because you're not at KW, I love all of my agents I work with. Chris Halpin is a friend of mine at RE/MAX, and he's done a beautiful job marketing this property. Carl shot it. It's a badass house.
It's going up. It's to be listed, but...
I want to be the buyer's agent on that.
Kevin, I want you to be the buyer's agent on that. Kevin wants you to be the buyer's agent. Chris, we all want you to be the buyer's agent. Kevin is a very, very talented investor in Southeast Michigan, and I'm not going to tell his story.
He could be an architect. I mean,
I'm not going to tell his story now because I'm hoping that I'm going to get the chance to tell his story through video.
Maybe Kevin
soon.
will come on our show.
That would be awesome. We'd love to have you as a guest. But over the years, I've been shooting his properties, and I've seen him grow as both an investor and as just his whole business. The story is amazing, and I can't wait to share it.
His knowledge of real estate and really what works.
Epic, which is why he's so successful. He really does all the right things. But he just did this house on Bryce and Grosse Pointe, and it is
awesome.
Amazing.
Yep.
It was studs. I have before and after pictures that he's going to be sharing.
Yeah.
Literally, the whole house was down to the studs, and it's done, and it's going up for sale this weekend. And when you see it, you're gonna be like, "What?"
I've seen some of the photos already, and I'm so proud of my friend Chris for getting the listing. And he's gonna do a great job for you, Kevin. And
awesome.
I want to try and sell that for you.
Great job, you guys.
Yeah,
can't wait to hear a success story. Randy Krasminski says, "Great job, you guys. Thank you, Randy."
Hi, Randy.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in.
Susan, thanks for tuning in.
Hi, Susan.
Tim, thanks for tuning in. It's good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing great. And Amy says that team effort is a wonderful thing, and you are absolutely right. And
absolutely.
People that know us,
there's no I in team.
There's not. There isn't win though.
Yes.
But people that know us well, that have kind of seen our relationship evolve over 11 years now.
Right. Yeah.
And they get it.
Going on 12. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But they get it because they're just used to it, you know. But what I always joke because when I go shoot your listings or if I'm doing video and when I meet a lot of your clients. And they always ask me, like, one of the number one questions I get from your clients is she really that friendly? No, seriously, like, I'll be, because I'm in the house with them by myself, and she's not around, so they're like, is she really that happy? I'm like, yeah, she really is that happy. She really is that friendly. But we work great as a team together, and and I think we balance each other well, even though we're both really passionate and really high strung. And I'm really looking forward to getting more feedback and seeing how that.
Can I just say a quick story?
Sure.
Quick story. Asking about really fun. I have a niece, and her name's Brooklyn, and I jokingly call her my mini-me, and I said to her one day, I said, Brooklyn, truly, I said, you're what they call a triple threat, and she's 10, and she's a cheerleader, and she said, Auntie, does that mean that I can sing and act and dance? I'm like, I'm sure you can. The fact that you're smart enough to know that that's what they call a triple threat, it was amazing. I said, but no, honey, you're beautiful, you're smart, but truly you're nice. And my mother always taught me that it's nice to be important, but more important to be nice. And and I love building relationships with people, and I know you do too.
I do.
That's why.
I was talking to my daughter the other day, and she's like, you know, one of the things I remember from my childhood, well, she's gonna be 20. Can you believe that?
Oh my gosh.
Nikki's gonna be 20.
Wow.
She said, I remember every time you drop you off at school, you'd always give me a kiss, and you'd say, I love you, be kind and helpful today.
Aww.
But it's true.
That
it
is
pays
true.
Off. Kindness matters.
I love that. Be kind and helpful today.
So thank you, Randy. Thank you.
Forward.
Thank you, Amy. And then Amy McGregor, she wrote another question. Great questions today, Amy. She said, what would be an inexpensive update to do to add value to your house, without breaking the bank?
All day long, put up a backsplash that's modern looking in your kitchen.
Little tweaks in the kitchen. And then I'm going to throw in something. Lights.
Absolutely.
Go to the hardware store and change your lights to
Menards,
wherever. Get all the lights in your house to be consistent. This is one of the cheapest. Or I shouldn't be telling this because this is like a super secret thing.
Whatever. Let's tell them.
If you can go to the hardware store and change every light bulb in your house to a daylight bulb that has a matched wattage, your house will have a far more consistent feel as people go through it. So regardless of what your decor is, regardless of what you have going on,
staging is creating a feeling.
And light is a huge part of that feeling.
And you know what? While we're talking about that, I want to give a quick shout out to Habitat for Humanity.
Yes.
They're an organization that they're a nonprofit that we support. They build homes for people that, for whatever reason, sickness, economy, have lost homes, families. And I had the privilege, Carl and I, to go to the dedication of the house that we helped.
Awesome. Beautiful job. Beautiful house.
Beautiful family.
Yeah.
They were amazing.
They were.
And Habitat for Humanity actually has a couple of large warehouses. They're called the Habitat for Humanity Restore. And these stores, they get things, they're almost kind of like the TJ Maxx of home goods. They will get, products that maybe have one scratch on them, and you're spending like literally 10% for high-end tile. I've had clients completely re-ceramic tile a kitchen or a bathroom for literally a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And all of the proceeds go to help families in need.
It's an amazing organization from start to finish.
A lot of our investors shop there. So check it out. Anybody that's thinking of doing a remodel to sell, Habitat for Humanity Restore. You can Google all the locations. So.
All right. So you had 4 money traps that buyers should be aware of.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I love these. These are great. So what's the first trap that a buyer can run into on their money side? So now we're talking about closing costs for buyers. Right?
Yeah. So upfront costs versus closing costs. So
and that's one of the things that people it's not intuitive. Like when people get into a real estate conversation, a lot of times people talk about closing costs. That seems to be the closing costs. Costs. And technically these are like costs of closing because it's at the beginning of the transaction. But the truth is that they're on the front end.
Right.
So if you're lining up your money and if you need to move money from accounts to accounts, you want to make sure that you talk to your agent and your loan officer, because there's a right way to do that and a wrong way to do that. But there are costs on the front end, like your home inspection.
Right. Well, while we're talking about that, when you say talk to your agent, one thing that a lot of buyers, especially the first-time home buyers, and even I'm working with some great clients right now. We just got them an offer accepted on a house on the water. I'm so excited. And Michelle, I know you're watching. They hadn't sold a house in a long time, and they were trying to figure out their finances. They said, Taleya, how much is the commission to you? And so even experienced buyers and sellers don't realize that the commission to the buyer's agent is not coming out of the buyer's closing costs. So, and I've actually had buyers say to me, well, if you're my agent and the seller is paying you, isn't that a conflict of interest? And what they don't understand, and I always explain at our buyer's consultations, is that when a seller sits down with their agent, the listing agent, the seller's agent, whose job is to get them the most money possible, that agent is negotiating the whole commission at that time with their seller. And what they're going to do is when they put that property into the multiple listing service, they are actually providing a contract to all the other brokerages to say, hey, I have this listing. I have a ton of buyers. My buyers aren't matching my listing. If you have buyers that would like it, bring them through. If you handle the buyer's half of the transaction, I'm going to give you half of my commission.
Right.
And we still have, as buyer's agents, a fiduciary duty to get the buyer the best deal possible.
Right.
However, the commission is a seller's closing cost, but it's not the seller paying the buyer's agent. It's the listing agent saying, okay, I'm not handling the whole transaction. I get paid for my half. Yep.
It's cooperative marketing. That's why
and
it's
you get
called
half the commission for that half.
Yep.
So that's how that works. That's one of the hugest misconceptions.
Yeah, it really is. And so that whole commission piece that goes into the equation in a very different way, and it's all there on the HUD.
Right.
But the buyers do have some other upfront. So they have their inspection fee, right?
Yep.
But then the mortgage application fees.
Well, and inspection fees too can vary a lot. So we have several inspectors that we work with, and a lot of people don't know this. In Michigan, home inspectors are not required to be licensed. Right. So anybody that knows about houses can, like you said earlier, create a website and decide to say, make business cards, order from VistaPrint, and say, I'm a home inspector, right? So the home inspectors that we would recommend will usually give 3 or 4 cards of people that we know and trust, and they are all either members of NAHI or ASHI, which are they're boards that require certain classes, and you can't have negative remarks with the Better Business Bureau, things like that. And they vary. So we have one of our inspectors, he's brilliant. He actually has been a city inspector for the city of Mount Clemens for many years. He knows his stuff. He's an older guy. He's not doing anything digital. Right. He will walk through that house and find absolutely anything wrong. He'll give you a written report, and you'll know from top to bottom what you're getting into the home. He's not taking photos. He's not emailing it to you. You're going to save a couple $100 on that report. We have a lot of our millennials. Another one of our inspectors that we love, Craig, I know you're watching. Hi, Craig Heath. We love him too, and Mike Connors too. These guys, they are doing full-blown digital reports with digital photos, and and it's like very high tech.
The technology is so
but
far.
That's going to cost a little bit more money.
It is,
and it comes down to what's important to you.
And the key is that you want to talk to your agents, and you want to get referred to a good home inspector, even if you don't work with someone that your agent recommends. Just make sure that you know what that cost is, because that's an upfront cost, and it can be several $100s.
I mean, we have some people that they say, you know what, we don't need a high-tech digital report. I'll walk through with the guy myself, take notes, and if there's a problem with the house, we'll address it. And then there's other people, no, we want digital to send. So it really depends on the situation.
Yeah, and then there's other fees too. Like, so there's mortgage application fees depending on your lender. Sometimes they'll roll that into the closing costs. Sometimes they want on the upfront. Sometimes they want a credit. They want a credit processing fee, or they want a credit. They want
to order the credit report. Yeah,
that's hundreds of dollars, right? Yes. So you got a credit reporting fee that's possible. You have an appraisal fee that's possible. Maybe they'll roll it in. Maybe they won't. Yep. You've got a home inspection fee that's on the front end that definitely doesn't get rolled into closing costs. That's definitely paid outside of closing. But then there's other things that you might have to do as a buyer, depending on your situation, that you wouldn't know going into the process. Like, let's say that your debt-to-income ratio or your credit score is a little bit off. Something's just a little tweaked, right?
Maybe some medical bills, something like that.
Whatever that is,
up.
You might have to take care of some outstanding debts, or you might have to take care of paying down your balances to get them within the ratios that are preferable for the lenders, so that you can get the best financing, the best interest rates, and the most amount of money to be able to purchase with. So.
Well, and what a lot of people don't realize too is maybe because their credit score, not necessarily that they have bad credit, but maybe, our younger people right out of college, they just don't have a lot of established credit. And that's why their score is not that high. So in order to feel safe after all of these rules that came out after the recession, the mortgage companies will say, we want you to have what's called reserves, which is enough money to pay the mortgage if there was something catastrophic, that you got in a car accident or lost their job. A lot of people don't know about that. That, wait, what? Yep. I have enough for this, but I'm supposed to still have all this extra money in the bank.
So what you're saying is sometimes you can't just liquidate everything that you have, push it towards the house.
Yeah, they want to see that there's extra in there.
And so all of these things are things that you really want to make sure that you're talking about with a qualified agent.
Absolutely.
So that you don't have any landmines in the buying process, because that's a horrible thing to do. So what's the second one? I'm actually, you said reserves, so that's actually perfect.
Tax reserves. It is so important to be mindful of the month that you're closing.
Yeah.
I like to say because when I'm working with a buyer or a seller, I will always go through a very detailed, out for the sellers, a nut sheet, and for the buyers, their closing costs. And I'll tell the buyers, this is worst case scenario.
Right.
I never want to have them say, Taleya, you said we'd need, $9,000 and we had to come up with 11. I'd rather them say, you told us 11 and it's only 9.
Yeah.
So,
that's the way to do it.
I always tell them, your lender is the expert in this area. However, here's basically what it's going to come down to. If we have a buyer that's closing in, for example, August, that summer tax bill that came out July 1st, they are reimbursing. I like to look at it like a clock. So, so if, you've got the month of July down here, that circle, you're reimbursing all the way to the end of June next year. That's a lot of money. And it used to be that they would want you to do all of the tax proration, so reimbursing the seller for taxes paid in advance, plus coming up with taxes at closing to set up your escrow account. Because if you're not going conventional with 20% down, you have to escrow your taxes and insurance. Right. It's mandatory. And it's a huge difference depending on the month you close. So I try to just worst case scenario it out when I'm configuring closing costs with my buyers. If you take the total tax amount for the year, multiply that by 125%, it's going to be like the worst case scenario.
And we're going to do, another thing we're going to do with the net sheet show.
Yeah.
Right, where we go into detail.
We're going to actually do it, and I will try and write so that people can actually read it.
So tax reserves are cute, and it's just, so as a buyer, those numbers can be massive numbers just like they can be for a seller. And if you don't have that figured out, that can cause a lot of problems at closing. So it's great advice. And again, you need to work with somebody who really understands prorations, the day of the year for closing, and homestead versus non-homestead, what municipality you're buying in. There's a lot of different things there. So what's the third insurance? The
next one, it's insurance costs. A lot of people don't realize that if they're buying a condo, their homeowner's insurance is 9 times out of 10 going to be incorporated into that monthly homeowners association fee, and really they just have to pay for what's called contents insurance.
Right.
It's very similar to renter's insurance.
But on a house, it's totally
on a house,
different.
it's going to be way more. So I mean, I will always estimate an average of approximately $100 to $150 a month. It could be a lot less if you have good credit and all your car policies. However, sometimes there's flood insurance, and
that's a surprise one. Like if you and if you're buying a house, here's the crazy thing, and I hate this. If you're buying a house on the water, some of them, literally, my house when I lived in the water, it was on the water. You walked out my front yard, you walked 50 feet, and you jumped in the water.
Wow!
I did not have to have flood insurance.
I sold a house on a street called Clairwood in St. Clair
It's not
Shores,
on the water.
But no, it was.
Okay.
On one side of Clairwood, and it's on the canal. It's on the canal. There's no flood insurance. Directly across the street, they're on a canal. It's the same street.
So
and
the whole
one
point,
side of the street has flood insurance and one doesn't.
So the whole point is, again, working with a qualified agent, that when you find a house, even if it's close to water, you want them to take a look, because the mortgage company will.
Well, and especially, too, if it's a bank-owned property, because you don't get the disclosures.
Well, but the mortgage company is they're gonna run that search.
They will
because
find out.
they have to secure that asset if they're going to give you the money, right? So if they run that search and they determine that property is in a flood zone and it requires flood insurance, it can be thousands of dollars.
And
which is
guess
insane.
what then? If you can't afford the flood insurance, now you've paid for a home inspection and an appraisal. You're out almost $1,000 on a house that you're not going to be able to afford.
Again, if you're working on your own, make sure that you're doing this due diligence on your own. And even like I said, it doesn't have to be on the water. If it's close to water, I've sold houses that were literally a mile, 3/4 of a mile to a mile off the lake. And they needed flood insurance, whereas like right now I live at a block and a half off the lake. I don't need flood insurance.
But some of these properties that they're backing up to wetlands.
Right. Well, it's also the floodplains. Right.
Yep, the floodplains and wetlands.
They finally just updated the map.
I know.
Because they only do it once every 100 years.
We got our clients Mark and Jen out of flood insurance. There had been flood insurance on this house for years, and they just had they redrew the floodplain, and we had to extend our closing a little bit because they didn't want to come up with $5,000 for flood insurance at closing for a year's worth for their escrow.
Right.
We got it removed and literally saved them $5,000 as a closing table.
Awesome. That's awesome, man. Good job. All right, so what's the fourth money time bomb that buyers run into?
Association fees.
Yeah. And that can be a big one.
It can.
I mean, I've seen association fees everywhere from $50 a year all the way up to, I think the highest association fee I ever remember seeing, and I almost fell over it, was $980 a month.
What?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
I hope that included heat, water.
Actually, it did include heat and water.
Was it a co-op?
It was downtown, and it included
parking.
parking.
Downtown.
But the whole point is, if you don't know what your association fees are, right?
Or what they cover.
And when they're due,
Yes.
That can blow up in your face. And then for a bunch of different reasons, like I've had clients, and I'm sure you've experienced this, where they go out and they think that they're going to buy a house and they get pre-approved for a number, and then they start shopping for that number. And then they flip gears and they say, I want to buy a flat downtown, or I want to buy a condo.
Right.
Now there's an association fee. Or they buy a site condo in a really killer subdivision that's got a few $100 a month, even $150.
Right.
That changes their debt to income ratio.
Right.
They could completely blow themselves out of their purchase if they don't know those.
Or
numbers.
how about when it's due quarterly and they hadn't really taken into account all of that? Something else that a lot of people, I think, I mean, really, you need to take into account, your agent needs to find out, is the water included? I'd say probably it's about 50-50. Would you agree?
Maybe. It's probably out there somewhere. Who knows the exact
It's about
number,
maybe 60-40% that the water's included. Water can be very expensive.
It can be.
I'll just, and you know, because I've been complaining about it, I had a small leak on the washer to my washing machine, and I just received a $1,300 water bill at my house because of this slow leak. And it would have been nice if that was an inclusion and an association fee.
Well, if it was, they would have found it and fixed it probably a lot faster.
Immediately.
You didn't even know it was there. But the point is that those association fees can really affect your ability to purchase, the price point you can purchase at, because they can mess with your debt to income ratio. And then when they're due, they can also be part of reserves, correct?
Reserve but one other thing that's huge that I've seen, we have to find out and do our due diligence during the inspection period and find out from the association, because the sellers might not be trying to hide anything. Maybe they haven't heard about it yet, that there's a special assessment coming up. If you are purchasing in a place where they haven't done the roofs for a while, concrete,
seawalls,
yes, oh my gosh, condominium projects that are on the water, there could be literally a huge amount of money that they're going to add to that association fee that you already have.
Right.
And if you don't know about it, that's going to be a huge surprise for you, with hundreds and hundreds of dollars, potentially more per month for maybe a year or two.
And again, if that gets found during the pre-closing process,
it could affect your debt ratio.
It could literally eliminate the house.
Yeah.
You can't buy that house because of something you didn't even know that you had nothing to do with. It's a tragic thing. It happens all the time, but all comes back to working with a team. So your agents, your lender, your home inspector, everybody's on the same page. You got to work with qualified professionals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm excited about this part because honestly, I love this part, and because I love the listing side of things and I love the creative side of things. So we're
talking about our featured listing
of the week. All right.
Yay.
So who do we got this week? Which listing do we have?
Well, this was my listing on French Creek, and Carl shot the footage and he used the Matterport.
I think at this point they probably just realized that I shoot it all.
Yeah, he shoots it out. Well, this property was one of the first properties that we really went all out with the Matterport, and we've had a ton of activity online. It's a beautiful home. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. McGee. That's the house they're watching. It's a great house, and it's in Fraser Schools. It's 2,700 square feet, almost a little over 2,660. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. It's a split level. So what's nice about it is, maybe for somebody that had thought, well, we really want a ranch, they still have a master suite on the first floor, and if you have children or grandchildren, it's nice that they are separate because they have their own bedrooms upstairs with the second level. And it's a great subdivision with a lot of newer built homes. All of the properties in the subdivision are very well maintained. I don't think there have been any foreclosures in that sub in a couple years.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I mean, look at that
beautiful neighborhood.
Beautiful, the catwalk.
Yeah, yep. It's got the catwalk up there, tile floors, upgraded cabinets. It's recessed lighting. And the appliances are included.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yep, and it would be immediate occupancy. So
nice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very spacious. It has an open feel, and my clients that are selling this, they're artists, and when you see the house in person, the way that the house flows and the paint colors, everything just really works.
It does.
Carl does a great job with the photos, but this home, I feel that you really need to see it in person to truly appreciate it.
Yeah, so you can type in the comments that you want to see French Creek, or
send me a private message.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a house that you want to see, it doesn't really matter where it is, or whose listing it is or whatever. But if you have a property you have questions on, or if you know of anyone that has a property that they have questions on, just shoot us a message in the comments of this post, and we'll be happy to get the information that you need so that you can make an educated decision.
Yeah,
and in fact,
absolutely.
If you'd like, that hot list offer is amazing, right?
Yeah.
So that it's let me make sure I understand what you put together right. It's the top 10 buys in any market, in any price range, you guys are going to hand craft a list.
Well, actually, let me just interject.
Sure.
It really, for the most part, we want it to be the top 10. However, one of the viewers that reached out to us after last week, he was looking for Macomb Township and also neighboring areas.
Right.
And there was more than 10.
Sure.
So I sent him actually a list of the 22
Awesome.
Best Buys
Right.
because we did the neighboring areas as well. And
So wait, let me get this straight. You actually went over and above? Crazy.
I couldn't just leave those
Crazy.
out. So I sent him 22.
Awesome.
It's the top 10, but if there's more than 10, I'm going to send you more than 10.
And the truth is, there might be less than 10. Because
There might be.
depending on
Yeah.
the inventory in an area and what your criteria
If
are.
it's overpriced and it's not nice,
we're
I'm
not going to
sending
send it to you.
you.
It's not worth looking at. But what we will do is we'll take a look at the criteria. So what you do is you type hot list in the comments of this show right now.
Or
and
you
then,
can message us if you wanted.
And
Yep.
somebody's standing by right now, and they're going to take a couple of real quick questions just to find out what's important to you. Like literally, it'll take 30 seconds, 40 seconds, less than a minute, and then
We have one of our favorite admin staff who is literally standing by right now that if anybody were to type hot list into the comments, you're going to get an immediate response. So while we're here hosting the show, we have people standing by that are ready to send you out those deals. And a lot of these houses, they're not on Zillow.
Right.
They're not on Trillia. They're not in Realtor.com.
Yep.
The second they hit the MLS, we have access to them.
We do. So we want to make sure that we put
Immediately.
that in your hands as
Uh-huh.
fast as we can.
Yeah.
So I think that's really powerful stuff. I think that's fantastic. Well, it is hard to believe, but
Wait, are we almost over again?
we're done.
What?
That's it.
We forgot to tell people about 101 Ways.
Okay, we'll go ahead and tell them.
Okay. One of the things that I absolutely love is that, although right now we're coming up to the holidays, last week we talked about selling during the holidays, your house is already staged. There are a lot of our sellers that are planning on putting their homes up for sale in February to get a jump
getting ready to
start.
sell.
Yes,
Yeah.
getting ready to sell.
Right.
We have an amazing booklet
is
that is
amazing.
great. It's called 101 Ways for Preparing Your Home for Sale. And I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I could always send you a hard copy in the mail or stop by and just drop it off in your mailbox if you don't want to have a meeting. We don't pressure anybody.
What she's trying
but
to
he's
say
digitizing it
is
as well.
that I missed my deadline. We had some technical issues that need to get worked out so that the show could be brought to you this week.
Yes.
So
He's digitizing it.
It's becoming a digital PDF.
Yes.
So if you type "sell" in the comments right now, we will send you the book as soon as it's digital.
Yes.
So it's just type "sell" in
we
the
can
comments.
just attach it right in Messenger to your Facebook.
Yep.
You don't have to give us your private email, your
Super
phone number.
easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no pressure.
We're making this as easy as we possibly can to get
Yep.
you the information that you need when you need it without
Yeah.
being a pest, and
Yeah.
at the same time making
won't
it
pester you.
super convenient.
Yeah,
So
super
literally,
convenient.
you type "sell," I'll respond back
We'll
to
ship
you,
it out.
just letting you know, thank you, got your
Yeah.
request. As soon as it's digital, which should be in the next few days, it'll definitely be ready for next week's show. But that's one of the things that we're really proud to offer.
Yeah.
So
I just want to say thank you so much for everybody for tuning in.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun.
Always.
And any constructive criticism, feedback that you want to
comments,
send us.
questions. If you have
Yes.
questions, or if anyone you know has questions, maybe you caught part of the show, or maybe this post just came up and you watched it after the show was done.
yeah.
If you have somebody that's interested in buying or selling a house, share it with them. We'd be happy to talk to them.
Yes, we would love to, and we never pressure anybody. We want to build relationships, educate, and have fun, be smart, and that's
Fantastic.
it in a nutshell. So
Awesome.
thanks again.
Well, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week at 1 o'clock,
Yep.
where we don't even know what we're going to talk about yet. But we'll tell you soon.
Yeah, we'll let you know soon.
We got to get that production schedule finalized.
do.
So that way we can just tell like every week, like next week is this show.
But you know what? I wanted it to be really the questions I'm hearing when I'm out there in the world selling real estate. But yeah,
That's true.
Send us a question if you want to, have us talk about something.
Absolutely.
On
We're happy to talk about anything. But thank you for tuning in. We'll see you
Thank
next
you.
week, 1 o'clock. Bye.
Bye.